Welcome. We are back. Hope everybody's doing well. Another day in the market. We got the coins dropping into the jar. And you know the drill. You know how we're going to run things. We're going to be starting off with Bitcoin. Then I'll kind of talk to the chat. We'll talk about the market. We'll talk about Clover, GameStop. What else? We'll talk about skills. And we can talk about SPRT, BBIG, just to bring them up. And we'll do take a request hopefully later on. So we're in for a good stream. I was not live last night. Apologies for that, but I will be live as I am right now, but also tomorrow night. And then next week we kind of go back to our normal schedule. This week's a little bit messed up with the schedule. But next week, Sunday to Thursday night at 9 p.m. EST as per usual. Okay. So just starting off with Bitcoin, before we even look at the 4 hour, you have kind of quadruple hidden bullish divergence on the daily. You could see from, the lows of all these islands from this one to this one, you made a lower low very, very slightly. Then you made a lower low here and on the final one. Now, if you match up all these red islands to the price, on all of those dips on the MACD, you actually made higher lows on price. So quadruple hidden bullish divergence on Bitcoin. It's kind of, very, very close. It's not the most strongest form. It's not super clear, but it's kind of there. Then if we go over to the 4 hour, actually, let's go back to the daily. Nice green candle on the daily. Yeah, I mean, you had a pretty red candle. It was kind of like the opposite thing happened. Like if you look at it, you had like a doji candle over here, then a very red kind of almost bearish engulfing candle, not perfect or textbook. And then if we go to the next one, it was the opposite. You had kind of a doji candle over here, and then not a textbook bullish engulfing candle, but pretty close to a bullish engulfing candle. So kind of like two red candles that look similar, and then two green candles that are like the exact inverse of that, which is just pretty interesting to see on the daily. And if we go over to the 4 hour and we zoom out, it kind of does look like somewhat of a double bottom right off of the 200-day moving average. The last time I was live, last time I was live, we were talking about how I wanted to see Bitcoin hold the 200-day moving average, and it did. Not once, but twice it bounced off of it. And you got good volume on the second bounce today around noon. So I think Bitcoin looks pretty good for right now. Again, as long as it holds above 46K, the 200-day moving average looks good to me still, as I've been saying since down over here in the wedge and the support and all of that. But yeah, right now it might start raining a little bit heavy in a little bit, so we'll see if my Wi-Fi goes out or not. But we got JG in the chat, Simply Sung, Dan, Robin, Jane, if I'm pronouncing that right, Rooster, what's up, Levi, Joe, and KTF, the meme master recently. So yeah, let's talk about the market now. Keep hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button. I know viewers, the viewership is a little bit low when my my schedule is like kind of all over the place, and it's not just like normal time. And then also I'm just like live early, and I wasn't live last night. It's kind of weird, but I really appreciate everybody who is showing up. What's up, Henry and Dennis in the chat? We even got Cheddar Freeze in here. So let's talk about the market. Let's talk about the stock market before we talk about Clover and Skills and GameStop and whatnot. Cheddar Freeze saying that the jobs date is out tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. And we're entering September. It's the first day of September. If we look at the monthly candle for the S&P, yet another green month. That was the... Let me try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th month in a row that was green for the S&P 500. Probably around the same thing for the NASDAQ. You had one red month in May. But yeah, market's still super strong for right now. I mean, the trend is your friend. You are overbought on the monthly, but still, the trend is your friend. You're just continuing to rally ever since the COVID crash. We go over to the daily. Kind of two just quiet days for the market between yesterday and today. Slightly red, but really just flat. You look at the open and the close, and on the 4 hour, we're still in this upsloping channel. So really no change. It's just kind of like how we've been saying on autopilot, right? You're just trending higher and higher and higher very slightly, but over time that really does add up. So that's really it for the S&P. The NASDAQ's pretty much the same idea. Closed at an all-time high today, gapped up as well. So you do have a couple downside gaps on the NASDAQ to fill at 15,280, 15,141, and then all the way down here at 14,716. So that's going to happen when you're doing this. It is kind of crazy to see the NASDAQ just, it was kind of inching higher and higher and higher. And now for the past 2 weeks, it's just kind of nuclear, just going like straight up. It's really interesting. But there are some bearish technicals I think Cheddar Freeze was bringing up in the Discord, as well as the lump. I think the first thing was the bearish divergence on the 4-hour. Let me see if I even see that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the lump was talking about something that I'm missing. I might have read that wrong, but I don't see it right here. Anything has 4-hour bearish divergence? Not super clear to me. The NASDAQ is actually slightly overbought though. And then QQQ, oh, it's the 1 hour that the QQQ has bearish divergence. Yeah, triple classic bearish divergence on the 1 hour, and on the RSI you have just regular bearish divergence. So it is there. Thank you for the help there. And then we got a gravestone doji on the daily for the NASDAQ. Cheddar Freeze helping out over here. Very similar to a shooting star, if I'm not mistaken. So appreciate the help from both of you in the chat, Cheddar Freeze and the lump. And let's take a look at the IWM and the ARC. So first off, for the IWM, today was the highest close on the Russell 2000 since, I believe, July 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. So this rally that is just continuing for small caps. I mean, we talked about it right over here. We were talking about how for 2 consecutive months you bounced off the same exact level for small caps and for mid-cap growth stocks. Now, that made me pretty bullish in the short term. We talked about this around August 20th and August 23rd, right? We talked about it when we were bottoming off that same area again. That's when I started putting out a bunch of new trades on the Monday following that weekend. And we've seen a pretty good rally since then. It's obviously working pretty well for the trades. We might look at the sheet in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if we're just looking at the Russell and the IWM, trend is still your friend. Maybe a little bit of a back test, pulled back a little bit in the afternoon for the Russell 2000. And then for the ARK ETF, it's just trying to hang on to the 200-day moving average. So that's really about it for the market. I mean, we're just continuing to trend higher. And then finally, small caps and mid caps, which were lagging very heavily in July and even in August, especially for the first half, are starting to play catch up with the large cap indices. And VIX still around the same level. Dollar actually might have a little bit of a fake out of that cup and handle we were looking at. And Dow Jones kind of in this rising wedge, but it's really long term. It could break to the upside. I mean, we've seen it happen before. And that's really about it for the overall market coverage. Nothing too crazy. So yeah, probably talk about Clover in a second here. And let me just read the chat before we get into all of that. All right. So let me know what's up in the chat. How you doing? Cheddar Free says, check the bearish SKLZ lead there on the IWM. I don't know what time frame, but I'm assuming it's just this. Yeah, pretty much. And you're right at the 786. Like literally tapped it to the, it looks like to the cent almost, like the perfect 786 retrace. And that's actually where you pulled back intraday. So a little bit of reaction at the 786. Yeah, it's definitely there. And you also have triple classic bearish divergence here on the Russell 2000. So, despite the trend being your friend, there are some contradictions. Hopefully I can say that correctly. With what Cheddar Freeze and the lump are bringing up. QQQ 1 hour bearish divergence, Russell 1 hour bearish divergence. Then you're talking about the gravestone doji on the NASDAQ, like all these different things, just kind of showing up on the charts, but we'll see what happens. We have seen bearish technicals underperform recently, but of course, you just don't want to take caution when things like that show up. Not financial advice, just probability, right? Regardless of all those, I'm still like, maybe short term, that definitely is a little bit, I'm not going to say worrisome for the market, but just something to look out for. But I'm still like midterm bullish. It's just short term, I'm 50-50. Midterm, I'm still bullish on the whole entire market. And then long term, I have no clue. There's just so many fundamental things that I don't know the answer to right now. COVID, inflation, tapering, like so many different things, with the Fed and just the world right now. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll get to CLOV here in a second. What's up, Big Nate in the chat? Chef Daddy Trader in the chat. Cuckoo Bird Scotty Z is in the chat as well. Hope you're doing well. Cheddar Free says Howard classes is what it is. I don't hate them, I don't love them. I'm just there doing what I got to do, I guess. But we'll figure it out, you know, just taking it day by day. Apart from that, talk about CLOV for a second here. Some strong tea. Okay, Clover. It's interesting, you know, and this is kind of the same point I was bringing up on my last stream. Don't mind these like dashed lines, by the way, they're just my alerts, like price alerts. But same thing as kind of my last stream, which I believe was Monday night. There's not too much that changed. You really can't get too much of a technical change when you're just kind of moving up and down 1% every single day for the past 5 days, right? It's like red, green, red, green, red. And they're like very, very small movements. I mean, regardless, this whole entire range, Wyckoff range, it's been in since July 19th, has been pretty slow. You know, there's not been a lot of volatility, but especially in the last 5 days, Clover has been in a very, very tight range. Really, it's been between 830 and 875 for the past 5 days. So not a lot of movement. What could that tell you? A couple things. The most obvious thing, especially if you look at the volume on Clover, is just interest. There, you know, compared to a couple of weeks ago, there's a lack of interest in kind of trading. That's one potential way to look at it, where there's not a lot of volume, there's not a lot of shares being traded, so you're not getting any big movements, right? That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, again, the volume is still low, but you could just kind of have an equilibrium level where you just have a very, very tight matchup between longs and, let's just say, not longs. And by not longs, I mean sellers, but also shorts, right? So a combination of the two. So it's just really interesting. I think, you know, when we go down to the lower time frames, it'll be a little bit more clear. But if you look at the daily chart, it's just kind of the same thing, but just dragging along. And you don't really have to overcomplicate that. You can, but for me, it's just a waiting game to see what happens next. You know, I don't know what the future is, but there's certain probabilities that we're looking at, of course. So that's just how I'm looking at the daily chart. If we go over to the 4-hour chart, this is probably the only, like, I'm not even going to say bearish technical, but let's just say not bullish technical time frame I see, where on the 4-hour you do not have bearish divergence, but you have what's known as bearish, let's see. Yeah, you have bearish convergence. So what does that mean? It's bearish convergence is not as strong as bearish divergence. It's just pretty much the same thing. And what do I mean by that? If we take a look at the MACD and the price, it did the same thing. The price made a lower high from this high to this high, and the MACD also made a lower high from this high to this high, and you got a MACD crossover to red. So the 4-hour momentum is not the best, but again, that really doesn't mean too much unless the price action works with it, which for right now the price action is not necessarily, you know, super red. It's just kind of going sideways. So I'm just bringing up that point. Got a MACD crossover to red on the 4-hour. If you look at the 1-hour chart, this is where you can kind of get a little bit more of a story. It's just, you know, ever since it kind of topped out at $9 last week, it's just been making lower highs, and honestly now it's starting to kind of make higher lows. But we've been in a very short-term downtrend from 9 to 850. Again, it's a very small move. I don't want to overcomplicate things when there's no need to. But if we go over to the 30-minute, what I kind of did today was, I'm sure you all remember this cup and handle I brought up last week. Potentially we could still be handling. Now, typically I prefer when handles are not like super, you know, long. I prefer when they're just kind of quicker and the bulls regain control and send the price back up. But you still have yet to break under a 50% retrace from your low on August 19th to your highs last week, right? You actually bounced right off the 50% retrace on August 30th, and you've never really broken that line. So it still could be considered a handle because you haven't made a major retrace that would turn it into like a downsloping channel. But at some point, like, you know, I'm hoping that something happens, obviously. And then on the 30-minute, there's a potential for hidden bullish divergence to kind of play out tomorrow if we stay above 834. So that's really what I'm looking at. I wish there was more to talk about and a bunch of new bullish patterns to name on the chart, but it's just kind of the same thing, and that's okay, especially when you have minimal volume. That's just how it could be, you know. And if we take a look at this volume, I mean, historically, periods of the lowest volume were followed by high volume, and also historically, most of your highest volume days have been green days, right? So that's another thing you could look at, looking at the chart, where you could see on these volume spikes over here, it was pretty green. You went from roughly $7 to $12, and then obviously on this one you went from like 6 to all-time highs at 28. So historically, when the volume is this low, all it's really done is turn into, you know, high volume at some point, and then eventually it works out. The only time it really didn't was when you had a little bit of higher volume here in February when the Hindenburg short report came out. So that's mainly what I'm looking at. You know, if we look at it on the daily, this is another thing I've seen other people chart. I mean, we're talking about a falling wedge here regardless. But if you just kind of look at it like this, maybe it's just a very, very mini bull flag, right? If you look at it like that, you had this trend up, 3 very strong green days, and then you've just been kind of flagging out. You maybe broke out yesterday, and then today you kind of back tested the breakout, which means you're trying to flip your previous resistance or supply line into a support or demand line, right? But again, that's only 5 or 6 candles. It's not like a full-fledged 5-touch wedge pattern unless you're only counting the candle high and lows. So just bringing up different points. We'll see. If we take a look at trade ETHUSD, we can see if there's any change there. The last time I looked at it was Monday night, and premiums for calls were heavily overweighing the puts. It looked like, you know, we had 2 very, very solid days on the 27th, which I believe was what, Friday, and then the 30th, which was Monday. And then kind of yesterday, just for both puts and calls, there just was not a lot of option activity. And then today just slightly higher, especially for the calls if you look at the open interest. Apart from that, historical IBs going back down. We talked about this in the past if anybody remembers, and we actually timed a local bottom with it very, very well. I think it was somewhere around over here. Then if we look at the options chain, not much of a difference. It actually looks like the calls have gone up a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. You can go back check me by watching my last stream. I really don't remember, but they look about the same or slightly higher if I'm not looking at this incorrectly. I also don't remember if the 12 calls were this high. Let me see if I can check out Monday night's stream and find that part of it so I can kind of double check. I just want to see, you know, if there's any major difference. It should be right around here. So the 12 calls. Yeah, the $12 strike has gone up since Monday. And then let me see what this number said. 64,000 for 15. All right, so very small increase on the open interest for the 15 strike, but I guess there was a good amount of $12 calls that came in this week. So that's one difference that I noticed from Monday. And then what's this other one? 11 was already kind of like that. So yeah, that's the main difference I see on the options chain for calls. And yeah, that's really about it. Go back over to the chart. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think the main thing over kind of everything would be volume. I know Tar Heel put out a video, I think yesterday, about the futures rollover and all of that. It's interesting. I've had a couple people bring it up to me as well. Definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. I don't necessarily look into all that stuff too much, but I'm very open-minded, so you know, I'm definitely keeping an eye on all that stuff. Feel free to check out Tar Heel's video that he uploaded, I think yesterday, on his channel. His channel name is Tar Heel Blue if you want more info on that. But short, simple, to the point, not trying to overcomplicate it. That's just what it is when you're not moving that much on Clover. So keep hitting that like button. We're only at 20 likes. I know the stream schedule has been kind of hectic this week, but hit that like button. We're back for tonight and tomorrow night. So yeah, I mean, this would pretty much be around the time I'd be going live either way. So yeah, keep hitting that like button. If you're not subscribed, I think we're getting close to 3,300 subs. Let's see. Yeah, we're about like 50 subs away from 3,300. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you're not on the Discord, the link is in the description. Make sure to join that. So let's take a look at the chat before we move on to other stuff. And also, before we even look at the chat, we're going to actually be talking about GameStop and Skills next. Big days for both of them. And why is that cool? Because it's also in the title of the stream. right here and right here. So this is the weekly sheet. It's looking pretty good so far this week. And GameStop, this was a free trade setup alerted to everybody last Monday. All you had to do was join the Discord or follow me on Twitter at ChampionVibe, which is in the bottom left of your screen. And GameStop, 39% gain in about a week and 2 days. And then also, if you're a premium member, we had a skills trade, a skills swing trade, and that hit the target today for a 28% profit. I don't remember exactly when I shared that, but skills had a very, very good pre-market going into today. Had a nice open, and then it kind of dropped intraday, but hit 2 targets of the premium trade, and then also GameStop. We're going to come back to those charts. Maybe we could even talk about Lucid. Lucid and Skills were kind of like inversing each other in the pre-market. Skills was up like 15, 17%, and Lucid was down, I think, like 20% at one point. So we could talk about Lucid for a little bit as well. And let me look at the chat before we get into all of that. Levi says, I just started back today too. Senior year, time flies, man. Hang in there. Appreciate it, Levi. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't like college or I do like college. I'm just accepting it for what it is. I don't know if it's the best place for me, but just doing what I gotta do. Dan says, are there any good non-option strategies for trading a bear market? There's a few. Not financial advice. Shorting in a bear market obviously can make you money. Also, day trading, you know, high volume kind of runners that are already kind of showing bullish signs. You know, just because you're in a bear market doesn't mean that every single stock is going to go down every single day. There's going to be outliers. So it's definitely harder to identify those outliers in the bear market. But looking for those outliers, developing scanners around, you know, identifying them. So you just kind of have to, you know, plan a little bit differently. And then Cheddar Freeze also said precious metals. That's true as well. And also defensive stocks perform well historically. JG says like the video if you're watching. I think that's a good idea. Mario says futures are dipping. My futures are like 10 minutes delayed on TradingView, but yeah, they are. Not too crazy for right now. And yeah, my laptop's charged. We should be good. And Scotty says 3,300 and you do a bong rip. CV, perhaps. I will not be doing that. But 3,300 and I think we should do like something like crazy at like 4,000 or something. I don't know. 3,300 and I will look at the solo chart for 5 minutes. If you've been watching the stream for a while, you know that might be torture to me, but just remind me when we get there. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but at the same time, I want to do something crazy when we hit like the 1,000, you know, each 1,000 we do, I want to kind of do something cool. But yeah. Let's talk about some ones that had interesting days today. Skills. It only closed the day up 4%, but at one point during the day, let's see. At one point during today, Skills was up about 19% almost. So yeah, I mean, what was my idea here? Now, if you looked over your social media today, a lot of people were talking about Skills and the high short interest, and I think it was like the highest mentioned Wall Street or stock on Wall Street bets this morning. So a lot of people were talking about it on social media. I mean, that was not really why I was looking at Skills. A couple of weeks ago, I mean, really, I think like a week and a half ago or something, around right over here, was when I was looking at Skills, which was breaking out of this falling wedge, right? This very, very clean falling wedge. I mean, it got all the way to the apex point, like kind of like there was nowhere else to go. It had to break to either direction. Thankfully, it broke to the upside, and it was even just above this historical support around $10.30. Somewhat classic bullish divergence on the daily if you ignore this little red island, but definitely what's there on the RSI. There was even 4-hour classic bearish divergence. Actually, there was quadruple 4-hour classic bearish divergence on Skills. And yeah, you know, between this week alone, from the open of the week to the high of the week, it made a 27% move. So it hit 2 out of 3 targets for this premium trade. And this is something that I was talking about on Monday night stream, where time and time and time again, GameStop, AMC, Fisker, QS, Clover, these charts show bullish variables a couple weeks before moves that happen because of squeezes and Wall Street bets and whatnot. But time and time again, we're seeing, and I talked about this on Monday night, and now we're seeing it again. You know, it's just super cool. I'm not saying that this called a 28% move or whatever it is, but it's just nice to see how technicals can line up with fundamentals, catalysts, or just meme stock hype and squeezes and whatnot. But it happened again on skills. And the other one that was interesting today, so that was a trade, premium trade, but there was also a free trade if you're not in premium. GameStop. Last week on Monday, I alerted this to everybody. Descending broadening wedge. Classic bullish divergence. I alerted it right here when it was just breaking out of this wedge. The day after it went up 27%. It got like $3 away from the target on the day after I alerted it. And then it spent a week consolidating, and I was hoping would finally do it. And then today, it hit the target, pretty much right about hit the target and then pulled back. So also 39% profit on GameStop today. If you're in the Discord or if you're on Twitter, congrats on the profits. And now it's saying earnings on the 8th of September. So good that the target hit before earnings. Of course, earnings could be good or bad, but it just makes it a little bit easier to assess the situation without having to think about all the potential scenarios for earnings. You know, looking at the GameStop chart, I think the strongest support is 187.5 from this resistance over here and even over here. I think your next, did I just say resistance? Your strongest support is 187.5. I don't know if I said resistance or support. In terms of your next resistance, I mean, it's really not super clear. Potentially a little bit around 241. And really, it's just from this candle low on June 3rd and then this candle high on June 11th. So that would be like the next level I'd be looking at. And then after that, I don't know, maybe there's a small gap fill at like 291 as well. So that's really it. But again, 39% move just happened. Again, it's GameStop, so you never know with GameStop, but profit's always profit. We'll see what happens in the future. And fun times there. So we could talk about SPRT, BBIG as well, maybe in Lucid. We'll probably start with BBIG and then we'll talk about SPRT and Lucid. Both of them had rough days today, to say the least. SPRT was down 23%. Lucid closed the day down 11%, but at one point I think it was down like 20%. I don't even remember. But BBIG, this is another name we were talking about before the insane move happened with the falling wedge and the classic bullish divergence. And then what a coincidence, weeks later, or just about a week later, boom, it goes insane. There's really not much for me to update on this from a technical standpoint. It's cool to see how it's doing well. As a swing trader, when something goes like literally straight up, you can't get a pattern or like a new divergence off of that. So as a swing trader, there's not much technical analysis I can do. As a day trader, of course, you can go down to your 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute chart tomorrow and find some setups, but I try and keep this stream oriented around day trading. I mean, swing trading, not day trading. Historically, you kind of closed right at this 942 level, which was your high from January 21st. Let's see if it did anything after hours. It was down 8% after hours. So you closed like right at that previous high, and then it went down to like 863 after hours, which would be around right over here. So going into tomorrow, I would probably say for BBIG, 938 would be the resistance because it was where you closed today. And then it was also this high over here. In terms of like support, you could use today's low at 731 or maybe even $6 psychological level, but also the candle high on June 9th and August 27th. That's really all I can do. All I can really do at this point is just give you levels. I think it's just a matter of how long the hype and the momentum lasts when something does this. Because, you know, they'll go up, they'll have fun. People will buy the top eventually, but 9 out of 10 times something like this happens, right? It has a crazy run. There were people buying SPRT at $59, and I'm sure many of them are now bag holding, and it comes back down. So it's just a question of how long the hype lasts. And I'm not saying that SPRT can't run again. Of course it could, but it's just, you know, you gotta always be careful that you don't get caught at these areas when things are going crazy and there's just so much FOMO everywhere. You know, for SPRT, we're on the daily time frame. Let's go over to the weekly time frame. It is back down around 24. We talked about this not too long ago. I think on Monday night stream, we were talking about this 18 to 22 level. That's the next major support I see for SPRT. It's a historical resistance dating back to 2004 when I was in diapers. That's when this resistance was created. So, you know, it topped out in 2004 and 2007 and 2011 in this resistance, and it never broke it until, you know, this month or last month. And now maybe that could become support. You never know. But that's the only zone I'm looking at. If it breaks under that zone, then there could be a lot more downside. But in terms of resistance, 33, you know, if we're just zooming out on the charts. And again, really all I can do after these crazy moves is give you historical levels, because there's no pattern or divergence that I can create off of this, you know, insanity. So we'll see how long the hype lasts. Those are the most important levels I see. 18 to 22 as support, 33 as resistance, which was a high from 2004 as well. And of course, that's in the eyes of like a longer term idea of, you know, tomorrow maybe you see a 30-minute setup that looks good. There actually is some hidden bullish divergence on the 30-minute, but there's also a gap to the downside and to the upside. So I don't know, maybe I'll look at it tomorrow. Had a nice final 30 minutes of the day with a little bit of a bullish engulfing candle. But that's SPRT. Another name that got crushed today was Lucid. I think there was some sort of thing with the lockup that lined up with today, and you know, it was getting crushed. At one point today, Lucid was down 20% roughly. Only closed down 11%. And I don't know if this is real. I don't know if this is super accurate, but this is the highest volume Lucid has seen since February of this year, when it was actually dumping, falling down from 60. So highest volume in September is the 9th month. So about 7 months. Again, I'm not great with math, surprisingly, but highest volume on the daily in about 7 months. It you know, gapped down and sold off. Kind of bounced at a random level, if you ask me. I mean, maybe you could consider this $16 level psychological, or just your candle low from January 14th, but I think it was kind of random, honestly. That wasn't a really clear level. I think the more clear level was 17 from these kind of lows in April and May, and you did close above that. So tomorrow on Lucid, I would hope to see it, you know, close above $17.20 again. That's probably the most important level you can find. It was even your low from January 21st. In terms of like, you know, upside, you got the gap fill at 1991 and then another resistance at 21. So we'll see. You know, it's not too easy to know what's going to happen next. I mean, it's a 50-50. So in a probability standpoint, you got a 1 out of 2 chance of being right. But in terms of like a, you know, 70, 80, 90% probability, from purely a technical standpoint in the short term, it just gapped down. We'll see what happens, you know. Fundamentally, that's always up to you. I'm not going to ever, you know, make that decision for you, or any decision for you to that matter. So we'll see. Just trying to bring up some interesting names, you know, from today. Yeah, so we're going to go over the ongoing trades now for a little bit, and then we'll just do take requests, I guess. So keeping that like button, hit that subscribe button if you didn't already. We're not doing take requests just yet, so don't drop any in the chat for now. And I have a flash flood warning. 1 second. It was supposed to be like raining pretty heavily right now where I'm at, which is like the, you know, the, what was it? It was called Ida, the hurricane, which kind of moved all the way up northeast. It's definitely a lot weaker now, but just, I think we're just supposed to be getting like rain from it. Let's see if it's still supposed to be. All right, so apparently on the weather channel, it's saying that it's like right over me, but I don't hear any rain. So I don't know. I think I'm good for right now. It's saying like in an hour it might get worse, but we'll see. If the stream cuts out, you probably know why. And yeah, I don't think there's too much in the chat. Oh, there actually was a few chats I missed. Chef Daddy Trader says, now I hear thunder. Do you think there's anything left in skills? Let's go back over to that chart. Yeah, we're not doing take requests. I'm just kind of looking at what's already in the chat for right now. But on skills, I mean, it actually filled the gap on the same day it gapped up. So the gap's filled. You don't really have to worry about that. I would like to see it reclaim above 1242 tomorrow. Let's see if it did anything after hours. No, it's flat after hours according to Google. But this low from April 20th was around like 1242. So I would like to see it get back above that level. It was even resistance in July of last year. So it's barely under that level. It's like 20 cents under. If it gets back above it, I mean, your next resistance would just be today's high, around 14 bucks. So yeah, it could have more upside, I mean, on lower time frames. It didn't technically fill the gap on the 30-minute, but there's a chance of hitting bullish divergence tomorrow. It's not really developing for right now to vaguely answer your question, there could be more left in skills for sure. You know, could it go lower before going higher? Of course, but it just made a big impulse move. Typically, when you make a big impulse move on the daily time frame, it's harder to, you know, use technical analysis, because instead of like consolidation and divergence and patterns, you just kind of have large candles, whether red or green. So that could make for good day trades because of the volatility and the potential price ranges. But, you know, at this point, again, these were the entry areas that a proper technical swing trader would be entering at. That's why, you know, I kind of shared the idea over here for premium members. And these are kind of the levels where people take profits, right? It got a little bit above that second target, but you could see, you know, it hit that second target and then it pulled back quite a bit. So it just depends on how you're looking at it. Bring up the new solo cargo EV. I saw a screenshot of that in the Discord. I still think it looks ugly, and watch me get 30 dislikes for saying that from all the solo fanboys. I'm sorry for offending you. You can call Fisker bad. I don't care what other people say. Everybody has their own opinion. Speaking of, I got even more Fisker merch in the mail yesterday. So I now have 4 different pieces. I think I'm only missing the shirt. I have the hoodie, the sweatpants, the hat, the water bottle. I think I just need the shirt now. What else we got in the chat right now? Appreciate the 40 likes. Let's run it up to 50 though. Cheddar Free saying lots of bearish technicals on tech. I mean, yeah, we were talking about all of them earlier, but even just simply, right? You know, all the bearish technicals you were bringing up in the lump, and I was kind of reviewing, you know, just apart from that, like, this can't last forever, right? You saw even in this bull market, you have your, you know, steady runs up and you have your dips, you make a higher low, you do it again. But if you just look at the last 2 weeks, it's not necessarily a steady run up. It's literally like almost a straight line. Like if I zoom out, this is pretty, it's pretty, first of all, just to see how the market is doing, but it's very intense. And typically you don't do this forever without some sort of a retrace. TSS says CLOV sitting on the 200 or 20-day EMA and the 10 EMA have reached a turning point. Let's pull this up. I think I actually have to put these on my chart as well. So TradingView, this indicator I have on TradingView, it's really weird for some reason. I know exactly what you're talking about because I was looking at Webull earlier, which has actually better, because these are the SMAs, not the EMAs, but I get your point. I mean, let's see if I could pull that. Sorry for hitting the mic. Let's do 10, 20. Let's compare symbol 1 second. All right, let's not do that. 10, 20. Maybe this works. All right, I think that works better. Let's take this off the chart. So yeah, you're 10 and 20 right there. So this red and blue line sitting on right on top of both of them. First thing, whenever I'm using some sort of a moving average or even Bollinger Bands like we were using, if anybody was watching the stream, which was not this Sunday, but last Sunday, right? You're using these Bollinger Bands right over here. You can go back to the stream from whatever the Sunday was over here. And I was talking about, look, we're at the lower Bollinger Band. The last 3 times we were at the lower Bollinger Band, we bottomed, right? Over here in in May, over here in April, and even in March. So we were at that point once again on the Bollinger Band on the daily. So what I always like to do when I'm using, you know, moving averages, Bollinger Bands, and kind of, you know, linear equation lines is, or not necessarily linear, but just equation lines on the daily, is kind of seeing historically what happens when you get to a certain point of those, whatever indicator you're looking at. So if we take a look at those EMAs, let's see. So you've kind of just been chopping around them, you know, for the last month. So you can't really consider that, you know, good or bad. Let's go a little bit further back. Really what I see from over here and over here, the last 2 times it was kind of actually under them was when it bottomed. So look at this. You know, over here in March and April, it was under both of the 10 and the 20 EMAs, and it locally bottomed. Same thing happened in June, right before the push to all-time highs. It was under both of them. And then same thing happened over here. Actually, twice over here. It happened in the beginning of August. You were under both of them. You made a move from 790 to 964. Then you went all the way back down under them, which is when we were talking about the Wyckoff spring. and you made another move. So they're actually right at them right now. They're not necessarily under them. Do they have to be under them? Again, maybe, you know, we're not at, maybe we already did this, right? We already did the part where we're under them. So now maybe, what if we're over here? All right, now I'm sorry if I'm speaking quick and I'm confusing everybody. I'm just trying to like relay what I'm thinking in my mind. But if we look at, again, the blue and the red lines, you can see that what really happened was you kind of traded under them for maybe a couple of weeks or just a few days. Then you broke above them and you back tested them, right? You broke above those EMAs and then you, again, came to test them one more time, and then you ran up, you know, crazy again to all-time highs. So again, we did this first part where we kind of fell under both of them and we bounced back above them. So now what if we're at the part where it's back testing, right? So if I just kind of maybe make it a little bit simpler, right? So we're just going to kind of compare to the past. What if we're this? What if that's where it is, right? The break above and then the back test, like it happened over here in the beginning of June and then here. So I'm just trying to use the past to try and just look for probabilities. Again, you want to be lining this up with a lot of other different indicators, but there definitely is a point there. Manny says, is that what we streamed earlier today? Yeah, just in case the storm was bad and it cut out my stream. And then also I got to wake up early tomorrow morning. So just kind of made sense tonight to stream a little bit earlier. What's up? Yeah, I mean, the storm, it said it was supposed to be bad. Right now it's like nothing. What's up, Tar Heel in the chat? Hope you're doing well. Make sure to go check out Tar Heel's channel on YouTube. We were already talking about your the rollover video you did. We were talking about that earlier. So yeah, make sure to check that out on his channel. Mandy says, any thoughts on the lump / the guy saying Fisker to get delisted? Again, I always talk about this. No matter how much I love a stock or company, I'm always trying to stay open-minded as a trader, because it doesn't hurt me to be open-minded, right? It only protects me in all situations. To be open-minded as a trader, it only protects you to understand all the different potential scenarios, because nobody knows the future. I mean, maybe some time travelers do, but I haven't met one yet. So I think the probability is low. It's not impossible. I think it's low though. That's really all I'm going to say. I think he was also joking, but he can confirm or deny that. In my opinion, this is not financial advice. Just based on what I feel about both Solo and Fisker, I think Solo has a better chance of getting delisted, if it even does. I'm not even saying that there's a high probability of Solo getting delisted. I'm just saying, let's say one has a 5% chance and one has a 10% chance. You do the math there. I mean, if you want like the deeper explanation, we can do we've done fundamental analysis live on stream on Fisker like probably a dozen times, and we have done fundamental analysis on Solo like twice on the stream. So you can go find those streams if you want, and I'm not going to spend time doing fundamental analysis on Solo and Fisker right now, but I'll just leave it with one point, okay? I'm just going to leave you all with something to think about. Let's just do it like this. Wrong button. Okay. So I'm going to show you two cars. All right. This is option number 1. Okay. I'm not stating my opinion. I'm just going to let you all choose for yourselves. Okay. This is option number 1. Okay. And this is option number 2. You make the decision. Okay. Out of these two car companies, these are kind of like their main focus point. These are kind of like their main cars, right? The Solo, I think the model is the Egg. The Solo Egg car is the main car, I believe, for Solo right now. And then this is the Fisker Ocean, which is currently the main car for Fisker. Make your own decision. What do you think looks better? You know, we've done the fundamental analysis on all the specs of the cars and the business standpoints, but I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I'm just messing around. Let's see what else is in the chat. Yeah, I mean, we kind of covered most of like the daily recap. All we have to do now is just give some updates on the ongoing trades, and then after that we'll do take requests. So until we get to that, I'll just read the chat for a little bit. Oh, we already zoomed out to the monthly on the SPY we were talking about. I think it's the 7th straight green month in a row for the S&P. Or we look at the SPX, not the SPY, but they should be pretty similar. Okay, I missed a few chats. I see a lot of laughing emojis. Let me see. Have a good one, Scotty, if you're still on the stream. TSS, I do not use cumulative money flow in my analysis. I'm not saying, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not saying I don't like it or I do like it. I just haven't really used it before, so. A lot of laughing emojis, I assume for solo. Maybe they're for Fisker, who knows? The guy says, okay, but which stock has a bullish bat and a double bottom and which stock is under critical support? That is a fair point if we're talking about short-term technicals, but we're talking about long-term fundamentals for once on the stream right now. If you're going to be completely unbiased from a technical standpoint, sure. In the short term, solo has more bullish variables than Fisker, but it just depends on how it performs. Again, short term, I mean, solo already vastly underperformed Fisker this year, right? Let's look at the just look at the monthly chart. Okay, so this is Fisker. Let's go to January. It's pretty much flat on the year right now. So if we look at the open on January 1st, it was actually it was January 4th. It was 1521. So Fisker technically on the year is only down about 5%. And keep in mind, it already went all the way up to 31. So at one point this year, it was up about 100%. And if we look at the solo chart and go over to January, if we look at the open of 638 compared to the current price, it's down about 45%. So compare the first year, the first day of the year to the current percentage loss on the year. I just said that really weirdly, but you get the point I'm making. On the year, Fisker is only down like 5%, Solo's down like 40%. So even if Solo outperforms Fisker for the next 3 months, it has a good amount to try and catch up. Speaking of Fisker, confirmed classic bullish divergence on the daily as of today, just continuing to test that historical level of 1455 back from January. And currently it's still rejecting it. If it breaks above it, like I said earlier, I think it could have room to retest the 200-day moving average at 1630. If it can't break back above it, your closest support is 13 bucks, roughly. Just your previous swing low. But nice. It was actually the highest daily candle close. Really since like August 13th, if I'm reading that correctly. I just kind of really quickly looked through the candles, but what else did I miss in the chat? Mehdi says that Lump told me Fisker will drown in the ocean just like the stock price. Well, at least it won't fry in a pan like an egg. Brad says Solo's going to be an OTC by the end of the year. Barasan says Solo Red Cup is a better design than Solo the car. Good ones, everybody. Good ones. Good point for all the new people who are thinking this is like a real debate or whatever. We're just messing around right now. And the Solo car that we looked at is not actually called the Egg car. Just again, if there's anybody new in the stream that didn't catch the joke. What's up, Zeke, for bleaking the chat? Alright, so Julian, I know you've asked about ATER a couple times now. We'll look at it once we get to take requests, but let's start off with the ongoing trades, just some updates. BlackBerry trade is up about 10%. If you look at the daily, we already talked about all of this. The downsloping channel, the bullish bat, which actually double bottomed at the PCZ, actually quadruple bottomed, right? So this was the bullish bat. It bottomed once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So it could quadruple bottom at the PCZ of this bullish bat at a historical level, right? $9.60. I brought up this exact level for probably a month. For a month, I talked about $9.60 every single time you looked at BlackBerry. It bounced off of that level 4 times, and I believe that level was charted when I put out the trade, I guess 3 centuries ago, because it's been pretty slow. But such an important level. Look at how many times it's been resistance and support in the past, right? Historically, this level is kind of everything. you know, all the time in the past few years, it's just been support, resistance, and it came down to level. It acted as support 4 times. Now BlackBerry's running again. On top of all that for BlackBerry, Wyckoff accumulation. So we've been talking about the Wyckoff accumulation on CLOV, which, if I'm currently correct, and again, this is not about validation. This is just me trying to identify Wyckoff as good as I possibly can. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If it takes 3 years for the range to develop, it does. But I think potentially Clover could be around this area over here, because you already got a spring, and then you also got a sign of strength, and then you also got an LPS. So you've gotten a lot of signals that you would typically get in phase D. But BlackBerry also pretty Wyckofian, let's use that term. And it broke out. It had a backup, which is pretty much the same thing as a back test with a little bit more detail, which we're not going to get into right now. Had a backup. Right over here, I shared an option ID with premium members. The day I shared it was the day that the explosions went off and the market was falling. So it was not the best timing, but you know, the idea kind of still worked out in the end, right? So this is like a good example of what Wyckoff can eventually turn into. So just for some education there as well. And then just 2 other swings. The X trade is up about 7%. Really no technical change except one thing. On the daily, there's a potential for hidden bullish divergence now. So I made a higher low on price with a lower low on the MACD. Potential for hidden bullish divergence if the MACD crosses back over to green. And then for the doc trade, somehow it was up 1.5% today. I mean, this thing never moves, but it moved today. So the trade's back in profit, up 2%. We'll see. I mean, this might be the longest swing, the longest a swing has taken ever from the swing ideas I've shared to either hit the stop or hit the target. And it was only a 3% stop. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. And that's literally it for the whole entire recap of the day. So, thank you, Delon, for dropping the Discord link. Go join the Discord if you're not in the Discord. And yeah, that's pretty much the recap of today. Took me about an hour, it looks like. All right, so keep hitting that like button if you're not subscribed. Keep hitting that subscribe button. The rest of the stream, I'm just gonna look at takers for all of you. Yeah, so if you want me to look at a taker for you, drop it in the chat. Don't request anything that was up over 30% today. Personally, I only look at all the tickers on the stream in the eyes of a swing trader. I'm not looking at them as day trades. So keep that in mind. That's why I only like we talked about earlier, when things make a 30-40% move in one day, in the eyes of a swing trader, it's kind of like you just let it do whatever it does and you go look for something else, which is very, very quiet, right? But when you're day trading, of course, you could find value in names like that. And of course, there's things like squeezes and stuff. But in general, just my personal style for swing trades specifically, which is the focus of the stream. Don't request anything up over 30% today. Also, don't request anything that IPO within the last month. I need data on a chart to analyze it. And nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. All right. Yeah, VISL. I think VISL might be the, I don't know for sure, but might have been the worst percentage. It was one of the loosest stops I've ever put on a swing, and it stopped out. So yeah, one of the worst swing ideas I've shared. And then eventually went like crazy high. So just not great timing there. What was the longest trade ever put out, says the guy. I think it is DOC, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I could be wrong. There's been hundreds, so I don't exactly remember, but it's definitely one of the longest, if not the longest. So ATER first off. Again, I know nothing about this fundamentally, so I'm just gonna talk about the chart and look for levels historically. So these are roughly the levels I see on the daily chart zooming out. It's you know, it just went from $3 to $7 in the last like 2 weeks. So it's trying to reverse out of this very, very long downtrend, or at least in the short term it is. There's a lot of different ways you can chart this trend line as well, but let's just chart it like this. Maybe it is breaking out of a falling wedge. You have 1, 2, 3, kind of 4 touches, so not perfect if you chart it like that, but kind of close. Also, highest volume like ever in the last 2 weeks. Today you had a bullish engulfing candle after a bullish hammer candle yesterday, so candle patterns are good. You know, the way I'm looking at this chart is there definitely was a better entry area not too long ago, like literally 10 days ago. But also, you know, on the opposite side, this is still a better entry area than all the way up here. And by better entry area, I don't necessarily mean that you should be buying it here because it's a great entry area. I have no clue whether this is a good or bad entry area. I don't know. All I'm saying is, like, if you're just talking about value, right? And at least perceived value. So, you know, if you got it at 3, you would have doubled your money by now, right? So there was some opportunity cost there. And then on the flip side, well, even if you are buying it after it just doubled, it still is technically better than buying it at 20, assuming it continues going up. So like, there's so many unknowns here. Hopefully what I just said made sense. I kind of worded it weirdly, which I somehow do with most of the sentences that come out of my mouth, but that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. It's just weird. Like, long term, it's still, you know, lower in price than it was not 2 months ago or whatever. But short term, it's double where it was 2 weeks ago. So it just depends on your outlook on this. That's really what I got for ATER. ABBV, this thing dumped. I mean, it was only down 7%, but it looks like horrible. This is like on one day, you bearishly engulfed on one singular day. I mean, you bearishly engulfed 20 days worth of price action in one day. So I don't know. It kind of, there's probably some sort of catalyst. I hope. I hope that didn't just happen randomly, but it looks like it was in some sort of a rising wedge. And it just, for whatever reason, dumped. And it did close above 110, which is interesting. 110 was the resistance on March 17th. It was your support on April 28th. It was your support on June 2nd. So it broke that intraday, but it ended up closing above it. So that's probably the level I'd be looking at. Even your 200-day moving average is right around that level. In terms of resistance, like, all these like little lows could be resistances now that you're under them. BEEM tested the supply line of this downsloping channel or wedge and rejected it today. This could be looked at as a partial decline, which means right now on BEEM, there is roughly a 70% chance of it breaking out in this general vicinity. You know, maybe it goes a little bit lower and then goes up, but this, you know, pivot right over here is a partial decline. We're in your downsloping pattern. On this drop, you never went all the way back down to your demand line. And before going back down to your demand line, which is your lower trend line or support line, you went up to your supply line, which is your upper trend line or resistance line. So you went to the top of the pattern before hitting the bottom of the pattern, and that's known as a partial decline, which 70% chance of a breakout in the general vicinity on the test. We'll see. There's still a 30% chance of it not breaking out here, but you do have classic bullish divergence on the daily. A little bit of an inside day today. I'd say support's around like $28, like your short-term support from these lows, and then after that 26 from the low on March 5th. Resistance 32.60 is the closest resistance I see, then 34, and then 37. That is BEEM. Then we got FUV. Maybe it's a cipher. The C point's a little bit too shallow, but apart from that, it is a cipher. So apart from that C point, it's almost a textbook cipher. Just, you'd want this to be, you know, somewhat higher. I think the 113 is the minimum right there. And it did bounce at the 786. So regardless of a harmonic, it retraced 78.6%. And look at that. That is Fibonacci. You're staring at it, okay? From this swing low to this swing high, you retraced 78.6%, and you bounced literally right there, okay? So that's pretty cool to see. Again, if you ever get confused by any of the indicators or terms I bring up on stream, watch the free course on my channel. The link is in the description as per usual. It's just at a make or break area. Apart from all that, this 1245 was support over here, support over here, support over here. Now it's been resistance for the past couple of weeks. If it breaks above, there's a gap fill at 1359, and then a resistance at the 200-day moving average around 15. In terms of support, probably just like 982, where it kind of had a hammer candle off of. And then even apart from that, you have a mini support, like a 4-day support around like 1130-ish. That was FUV. SAVA just testing the 200-day moving average. Bounce off of it, I think could be potentially bullish. Breach of it, I think could potentially be bearish. All the levels on the chart are already here for SAVA. There's a gap fill at 6770-ish. No divergence. Not really at any PCC of a harmonic. If you look at it like that. If you want to look at it like this, though, somewhat like a shark. It's at the 88% retracing the 200-day moving average. That's really all I got for SAVA. ACIU, thank you for dropping the course link in the chat, Cheddar Freeze. Keep hitting that like button, everybody. Let's get up to 50 likes right now. Hit the subscribe button, join the Discord. Looking at charts for everybody for free. Just hit some buttons, and that's all I'm asking for, okay? So $6 is your historical support on ACIU from this resistance in 2019, from this support in May of this year. Actually, May. Pretty much all of May was holding $6, and then it got close to it on August 20th, and then it bounced. So 6 is your main support. 834 is your historical resistance from over here, from over here, from over here, and from over here. Even it was your support here and here. Wow. So those are your major levels. You're right in between them. So 50-50 on which one you go to next. 200-day moving average is around 677. There is no pattern on the daily. Again, I'm only looking at most of these tickers in the eyes of a swing trader. Day trades, you got to wait till the market opens tomorrow and, you know, kind of look at the lower time frames. Workhorse, I think they had some sort of news today, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. Thank you, TradingView. September 1st, SEC opens probe into EV company Workhorse. An early investor in Lordstown. I did not know that. So there's that. If we just look at the chart though, kind of hit the PCZ of a bullish bout with hidden bullish divergence. Started bouncing off of that, and then today with the news it pulled back. Did close under 945. Where's 945 from? Oh, it's from these highs in 2015. So in my opinion, you just want to hold your previous swing low around 867. If it doesn't, then you got $8 as your next support. If it does bounce, you got resistance at 945. You got resistance at 1059, or 1060, which was your high of the day around that, and then 1128. That is Workhorse. DraftKings. We were talking about this not too long ago. It actually broke to it's actually somewhat still in this upsloping channel. But it did break above $56, which was your high from June 9th. It was your support here, it was your resistance here. Above 56, I like DraftKings. There's not much of a pattern or divergence. I just think this is an important level, and hopefully you can hold it. And if it does, the next resistance is 64. WFC is testing a support, 43.41, which was your support in 2019 twice, and it was your support in 2016, and it was your support in 2013. So it's retesting this historical area. Isn't it kind of, I don't know if I'd say good or bad, but literally I think like most of the charts I've looked at from the take request tonight, I've already had charted out. Like, I do not remember the last time I've looked at the Wells Fargo chart, but I scan, it's not just me on the stream charting. Like, I scan a lot of tickers every single weekend. So it's like more than half the tickers, I just randomly put them into my watch list I've already looked at before and I've already charted. So, it takes a lot of work, and there's a reason why you see most of these charts popping up with levels already there for me, which is very helpful for when I'm doing take requests. But it just goes to show you that you got to put in work if you want to learn how to do all of this, right? The only way I could have charted all of these things that we're looking at before I even opened up the chart is because I put in the work previously, right? So I want all of you to kind of be picking up from that. Of course, it does, take out time from other things you could be doing, but it just depends. What are you looking for, right? Are you looking to actually learn how to do this? and make this like your career, or you're looking at this as like a side thing, you know, some side money. It just depends on what you want from trading. But I don't know, that was just a random point I wanted to bring up. Like, I've just been noticing like most of these tickets I've already like looked at and charted out, so it is what it is. Wells Fargo, not really at the PCC of a bullish bat if you look at it like this. I mean, if you use this low, then it is. So it just depends on how you want to anchor your X point. Historical area, we'll see if it's at the make or break area. HEXO. Another one that's testing this 235 level. It was a support back from October last year, and it's your short-term support. There's a gap fill at 315. Classic bullish divergence on the daily is developing. Very, very, very rough downtrend though. I don't know what's happening fundamentally here at all. That's too perfect of a double high, and I need to restart the playlist. So yeah, it's too perfect of a double high to be a textbook harmonic. Double high or double top? I mean, I meant to say double top. Dogecoin. Got some hidden bullish divergence on the daily MACD. I just look at this as a bull flag that it just broke out of. So nice run up, and you just broke out of this wedge bull flag. It probably looks like a nice wedge on the 4 hour. Let's look at it. Come on. So like that. So we look at the 4 hour, broke out of a falling wedge. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 partial decline breakout. So yeah, 35 cents would be your next major resistance. A little bit of resistance at 33 cents as well. So kind of this zone be your next resistance. And then in terms of support, this would be your support zone. Okay, so that's Dogecoin. It's actually up 4.5% in the last 2 hours. IDEX. Chat, answer what I could potentially be thinking right now. All right, I want to see how much everybody's been paying attention to the last month of streams. What could I be thinking right now? Not too hard. You just gotta be watching the streams, and you already probably are typing it in as I speak. We'll see who types it in first, though. I want to start doing more like, I don't know, pop quizzes. Thank you for 50 likes, by the way. And also, apologies if I don't get to all the take requests tonight. There's a lot, and I'm trying to do as many as possible. JG, divergence is one thing, definitely. That's a good point. But there's one other thing that could be taking place here. So I'll just chart out your divergence while we're waiting. I thought we'd already have an answer by now. All right, there we go. Tricky Trader Tomater with the first answer. And Neutron Flux Labs has been hearing a lot of Wyckoff lately. There we go, BC as well. Tricky was first though. And again, for just another reminder, I said like 10 seconds ago, I might not be able to get to all the tickers in the chat, so I'm trying to get to as many as possible. I'm just taking out time to do as many as I can. We'll see as many as I can get to. But yeah, it might not be perfect, but it is Wyckofian, right? You've entered into a downtrend. You had an automatic rally. Okay, so you created your first low. Then you kind of had this lower support. You bounced off of it twice. This could kind of be some schematics from phase B. Then you had an upthrust, okay, which is the opposite of a spring. Had a fake out to the upside. It pretty much was the composite operator telling short-term traders that they have no place to be playing his game. And then the opposite of this happened, where you went down to a spring area, and then even before the spring area, you tested that previous support area, and then you sprung, which is pretty much, you had, let's say, inexperienced traders buying up here, and then potentially a little bit more of experienced traders getting in right over here. Now, by experienced, you actually might have had some traders selling this because they thought it was a breakout to the downside. Now, probably as it was happening, it would be hard to identify that you know, if this was a spring or if it was a breakout, a real breakout to the downside. But you did have some bullish divergence on that low, and you did have a bullish engulfing candle on this day as well, on August 20th. And yeah, it is kind of white coffee and you just sprung. Does that mean 100% this is going to go to the moon? No. That's just because you have a white coffee, you know, potential white coffee in schematic on a chart doesn't mean for sure it's going to play out and go to the upside. It's all just probability. But just trying to bring up some things I see right away for education. So when it comes to IDEX, I like it right now as long as it holds as long as it holds the spring. All you gotta really do is hold $2. Above 2, again, that's a pretty decent risk. You know, you're entering right now to $2. That's 17% if you're risking to play a stop loss under that previous spring. Maybe you could even just play the 220 support from these lows over here. But yeah, that's kind of your current outlook on IDEX, maybe in a little bit of a descending, broadening wedge at this spring area as well. So those are a good amount of variables. You probably would get the reward to risk playing this, just like that. You get a forward to, you actually would get if you're just playing the range, you get about a 2.5 reward to risk or so. If you're playing the support, you'd get like a 4 reward to risk. So it depends on how you potentially play it. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just bringing up variables on a chart and showing you potential reward to risks. But even that 2 level is pretty historical, right? So IDEX, interesting. Next up is Wish. We made 100% profit on last Friday playing lottos on this. And we entered right over here where my mouse is where we entered that breakout of a wedge at a nice potential demand area. Well, in hindsight, it was the demand area. And since then, it's just making higher lows and higher highs. Short-term support for Wish going into tomorrow was 735. It was resistance over here, and support over here. And then even you have like that 730-ish resistance over here. So this is your support zone for tomorrow morning on Wish, the 730s. Hopefully you can bounce off that. If it can, then really 774 would be your upper resistance, maybe a little bit of resistance at 747. That's really it. Downsloping flag channel, whatever you want to call it. That's how I'll be looking at Wish right now. Definitely more of an edge down over here though. TLRY, let's go back over to higher time frames. Could have just broken out of a downsloping channel, and yesterday had a bullish engulfing candle. Today was kind of a quiet day for it. As long as it holds above this zone that I already have on my chart, I think it looks fine. Just got to hold that zone. Then your next resistance is 15 from this low over here, from this low over here, and from this resistance over here. And we got Smile Direct Club, first stock I ever bought the day I turned 18. I sold it a long time ago. I think I only held it for like a month, but yeah. So it was right around over here when I got in. I think I made like 20-25% profit. Somewhere over here is when I entered. I probably took profits on one of these pops over here. It did end up going a lot higher, but now it's a lot lower. So if we're looking at it right now, you do have some classic bullish divergence on the daily already playing out. And I'd probably look at it like this. Again, you could chart this in a few different ways, but falling wedge, pretty long-term falling wedge. You could just use Fibonacci for targeting from your major pattern high to your current swing low. Potentially this could be your Fibonacci. And there's a gap fill as well at 662. So that's really SDC. You could probably find a couple different harmonics with all of these highs and lows. I don't know if I want to spend a lot of time, but we could just quickly look for some shallow C point. And you retraced 7 from B to D, so that's a little bit extended. I don't know. I mean, with this gap down, it kind of messes that up, but let's see. Bullish butterfly. Look at that though. Okay, perfect 78.6, not perfect, but pretty close to a 78% retrace from X to B. Your C point is high enough to be valid. And then you came down to the 1272, which I believe is the minimum requirement for an X to D PCZ on a butterfly, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then you bounced right at it. So yeah, I mean, you could probably find some other harmonics with all of this data on the chart and all these swing highs and swing lows, but just you gotta think outside the box sometimes. KT is up next. Classic bullish divergence if you ignore this little red island over here. And also, we were talking about this earlier, kind of white coffee as well with this spring. There's not a lot of data in this range. So there's a few different ways you could look at it. Potential reaccumulation, because typically on regular accumulation, you'll be actually dropping into the Wyckoff range, but you do have, you know, potential reaccumulation schematic. I don't believe you're supposed to be getting springs on distributions, so let me confirm that. Actually, you would get something known as a sign of weakness. Okay, so instead of a sign of strength, you could be getting a sign of weakness on distributions, which are the opposite of accumulation. So if Wyckoff accumulation is bullish, Wyckoff distribution is bearish. So this would have to have been the sign of weakness if it would have kind of flipped the previous support into resistance, but actually broke back above it. So doesn't necessarily look like distribution to me, unless it's not really even in phase D yet. Ooh, but distribution schematic 2 is not too far off. But the thing is, this gap up today might have actually invalidated distribution. Again, it could still happen. You could just do this, right? But regardless, you do have, you know, an interesting range, right? And again, every single range you see on charts is not going to be Wyckoff. Let me make that clear, because I've been getting a lot of DMs since I've been bringing up Wyckoff a lot in the stream with Clover, obviously. Getting a lot of DMs, like almost every single day, with people asking me, is this Wyckoff? Is this Wyckoff? Is this Wyckoff? Is this Wyckoff? It's kind of a mix of two things. One, you can have just regular ranges. They don't have to be Wyckoff ranges. Ranges are Bulkowski patterns as well, if I'm not mistaken. They're just regular technical patterns, right? You know, you have a resistance and a support. You just kind of ping pong in between them. That's just a range, a rectangle, whatever you want to call it. So just keep that in mind. Every single time you see a range, you don't necessarily have to call it Wyckoff. It might not be a Wyckoff range. And then also, on the other hand, and this is kind of like the complete opposite of what I just said. Wyckoff could be everywhere at the same time. So it's really weird. At one point, on one hand, you want to kind of be able to just look at things as regular ranges, but on the other hand, there's a lot of traders who I've watched their courses on YouTube that talk about stocks are always in some sort of phase of Wyckoff, because Wyckoff is just the phases of stocks, right? And one model that kind of just shows that very, very clearly would just be this. Let me bring it up. Okay. Would just be, where is it? Right here. This, just the Wyckoff price cycle, right? So you have your accumulation over here, your distribution over here, and technically, if you really want to zoom into low time frames on all of your highs, swing highs, and swing lows, you could maybe identify Wyckoff everywhere on a chart, right? We actually talked about this on Fisker back in like January, where I was talking about something like this, where, you know, we were talking about this as the Wyckoff, but technically, if you really, really zoom in to like things like this could have been called distribution over here. This could have been called accumulation over here. So it's like, it's weird. Hopefully you kind of get what I'm saying. On one hand, you don't want to force everything into being a Wyckoff range, but on the other hand, you also want to kind of understand that Wyckoff is just, not Bulkowski. Wyckoff is Wyckoff's kind of way to just look at stocks. That's where the whole entire composite operator, composite man comes into play. Right? It's just the idea of looking at stocks in that kind of perspective. So hopefully what I said just made sense, but there's kind of like two different ways you could look at things like that. All right. I'm not gonna be able to do any more taker requests tonight. I've tried to say, you know, multiple times so far, you know, since I've been looking at these charts, that I'm not gonna be able to get to all of them. So I'm sorry for all the not timestamps. I'm sorry for all the taker requests I missed, but I will be live again tomorrow night, and there's pretty much every single stream night where you have a chance to ask for takers, and then also you can just go in the Discord and ask around, and 9 out of 10 times somebody will help you out. So if you really, I said really, you know, you want help with analyzing a chart, just join Discord, go to the technical trades channel, the trading questions channel, whatever it is, and yeah, if you really, you know, need a help. I feel like I got to a good amount. The last one we're gonna do is Ethereum for Medi. So I'm just gonna look at Ethereum real quick. Again, if you missed the stream on Monday, starting next Tuesday, and reminder, the stream schedule is staying the same, 9 p.m. EST from Sunday to Thursday. But on Tuesdays, I will not be the host of the stream. Medi will be the new host of the stream. It'll be on the same channel. It'll be on this channel right here, but you're gonna see Medi's face instead of mine every single Tuesday night. There's also gonna be some co-hosts that we bring on for the Tuesday streams. And yeah, you know, Medi is somebody who I think has learned a lot of good technical analysis, also has a deep understanding in fundamental analysis. And, you know, he's somebody who also does YouTube content and is willing to help me out because on Tuesday nights, I get home too late from college to stream. So yeah, look forward to that starting next week. Next Tuesday will be the first day that he hosts the stream. It'll be on this channel. He will receive, you know, if you send tips, he will receive whatever tips you send. I'm not taking any cuts of anything from Tuesday night streams. It'll be on my channel, which obviously helps my channel grow, but also it's going to help his channel grow because he'll be able to shout out his channel as much as he wants and whatnot. But it'll be fun. We're going to be planning it out this weekend. I hope so. We definitely should. But yeah, Ethereum, amazing. You have hidden bullish divergence on the daily. It just had two major green candles in a row. It broke out of this 33 resistance it's had for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And as soon as it broke, it just kind of went up straight. If you're really zoomed out, there's not much resistance left until the all-time high area. You are slightly overbought on the daily. There is a potential for classic bearish divergence if the price starts reversing. Really at any point, if the price reverses and the MACD cannot make a higher high, there's a potential, but again, it's not really developing for right now. So the potential is there, but you have to wait for it to start developing. And I'd say your strongest support is 33, so you're just kind of in between support and resistance. Definitely a lot of better entry areas within the last couple of months in hindsight. But even with technicals, right? You triple bottomed off of 1700. Okay. So it just depends on how you want to look at it. If I clear all this up though, it's too perfect though. Too perfect of like a double bottom to be a bearish Gartley. I don't know. What if we, even if we look at it like this, it's too perfect of a double bottom. Actually, it might just be enough. Let's see. Bearish Gartley. Let me try and make this pinpoint accurate. It's a little bit too perfect still. I think you want, what do you want on a bearish Gartley for the C point or max? %, retrace. So yeah, it's past that. Not too much, but somewhat. And you already passed the 1618, which was right over here. So I don't know. Actually, a 3618 B to D extension would roughly be around your previous all-time highs, which you could see resistance there regardless. But yeah, that's going to be it for take requests tonight. Futures slightly red, but relatively flat. Actually, NASDAQ futures went back to green. Russell futures are down a little bit though. And again, that's 10-15 minutes delayed, so I don't know. If you looked at skills, it'll be in the timestamps. Chef Daddy Trader says, Champion Bob, do you have a video of how you set up your chart? Being new to the channel, I'm having a hard time. Cheddar Freeze answered that for you. I do have a trading view video. It's in the course. The course is in the description. If you ever want to check it out. Guy says, hey bro, I'm down 83% on the stock. I think this is the spring. Thoughts? I don't know. Is it the spring? Let's see. Oh, wow. So you pretty much bought like the exact top on solo? No, I'm just playing. Yeah, good one. Can't delete that now. Do we have to speak Canadian to watch the stream? I do not know how one speaks Canadian. I do not believe Canadian is a language. Well, there's Canadian dialect, right? But most popular languages in Canada would be what? English and French. Anna says bearish TA doesn't work on crypto. I think Mitch Ray would disagree there. But again, you know, bearish technicals can underperform in overwhelmingly bullish markets. That's another point that Mitch Ray brings up a lot. But Mitch Ray has identified a lot of bearish crypto patterns and whatnot that have played out beautifully. Appreciate the support, the waffle maker. And yeah, I really have to sneeze, so I might just cut out the stream right here. But thank you for watching the stream. I'm trying to hold in my sneeze. Have a great night. And I'll be live again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. EST. So I'll see you there. Good luck trading tomorrow. Join the Discord. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Have a great night and peace out.
I feel upbeat today, so the sun shines alone. Ain't no need to go home. We lost our childish ways. Our daydreams came upon, so where have we been?